Hello and welcome to another episode of Staying Power, a show that is all about building a better life. So if you're interested in building a better life, you're in the right place. And we're going to take the next hour and talk about one piece of building a better life. And we hope that it resonates with you. Who is we? If you're brand new, I am JDK Winnikin, and across from me is really just a bright ray of sunshine, always a bundle of energy, always a font of wisdom. My friend, my collaborator, my business partner, Ashley Knievel. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
How are you?
I mean, after an intro like that, I'm great.
Well, you know, I got to set you up for success every week. That's how this works.
You do a great job.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. How are you doing?
You know, I'm doing really good.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be in here in studio with you.
I know.
With our producer over there. It's
a
good time to be alive.
I know it is a good time to be alive. And we hope all of you out there are enjoying life or working through life's challenges, whatever those might be. And remember, if you end up missing any of this episode or would like to catch up on our other episodes of Staying Power, you can get this as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch video replays of every episode on our YouTube channel. And you can also find out more about us at 1150 a.m. KKNW in Seattle. At all those locations, there are links on how you can get in touch with us. The best one being our email, stayingpowershow@gmail.com. So, all right, Ashley, Here's the thing. Have you ever been in a really big argument where somebody was convinced they were telling the truth and you were convinced you were telling the truth and neither one of you could figure out what to do with that?
Yes. Not a particular instance comes to mind, but I
Sure.
know definitely in my younger years, like in my early on relationships, like obviously I was right, but obviously they were right. So it's like your story, my story, and the truth.
Right. Okay. Right. That's a good one. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Not some, incident that you can think of here on the spot, but this idea of how can we as people in connection with others who we care about, and even with people just in general, how can we hold on to this idea that we both might be telling the truth in the same situation?
It's really interesting.
It's a different way of phrasing how do we handle different perspectives, be able to agree to disagree or to disagree and still stay in connection. These days, it seems more difficult than ever before for people to disagree and stay in connection.
Yes.
It is a very, very charged atmosphere that we live in. Politically, socially, on social media, seemingly everybody stakes out positions and argues over those positions. And then there's no middle ground between any of them. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that because it's actually harming us in our bodies and in our minds when we don't do that, when we don't take a look at the power of two truths, if you will. So how's that sound for you today?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So you said you've had experience with this before. Really what this is about is people's lived experiences in any given moment, how they see something or how they have developed over time, influencing how they see what is the truth of something. When I say to you, two people can be telling the truth at the same time over the same scenario, same incident. What makes you think that's possible?
What makes you think it's possible?
Yeah, what comes up for you with it?
I mean, I don't know if I would say that it is two people telling their personal truth. I think it comes down to how much value that you assign to something, because obviously people have different values. People have different interests. Somebody might be really interested in something and somebody else isn't. And to them, that's like that thing will turn their world upside down. And the person next to them is like, okay, and life goes on.
Well, and this might be where we should introduce where the topic came from.
Okay.
A few weeks ago, we talked about this on a recent episode. My baseball team, I'm a big sports fan, everybody. Ashley, I think it's safe to say you are not.
Unless it's Quidditch.
Quidditch and MMA. You like MMA stuff.
I do.
You do. All right. So I'm a big team sports fan. Ashley couldn't care less about some of these things. Well, I think it wasn't just me, Ashley. I think you have people in your life who are also big sports fans.
Yes, I do.
And let's just say the Mariners had a rough crash out of the playoffs. And it was really rough. It was brutal. And I remember texting you. You're asking me how I was doing. I was like, oh, this one's going to take a little while to get over. And Ashley, you texted back, I'm just not going to say anything right now.
Yep, I remember that.
Because, right. And so here's the two truths, just as the example. Truth is, I was wrecked by that. It was a short period of time, but it was tough, right? As a sports fan, you're invested. It was tough. That was true. It was really tough. You also were kind of pointing out, in the big scheme of things, it doesn't matter compared to a lot of other bigger things, which I also know. So that is also true. So it really doesn't mean that much. And really what it is what you just said, the meaning I assigned it. Mm-hmm. It's also the meaning you assign it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So the truth of our experience is the fact might be the Mariners crashed out of the playoffs in a pretty dramatic fashion. What that means for each of us, though, we assigned it.
Yes.
So how then do we accept that? Now it's easy to accept. I'm a sports fan. You are not. Mm-hmm. That's the big difference. But when it comes to like interpersonal relationships, it starts to get a little sticky, particularly if one person, for example, is upset about something that another person said or something that happened or something they did or something they didn't do. It doesn't get talked about right away. When it finally gets brought up, whether that's in a really constructive fashion or not, suddenly people tend to be battling over what actually happened rather than maybe what's actually going on.
Yes, at that point, they're arguing about the argument. They've gotten so far away from the point of the matter and the subject that it very much spirals far beyond where it originally came from.
Okay. And that's probably more common for what we're talking about today. That's happened to you. It's happened to me.
Yeah.
It's the worst feeling when you're in the middle of that. And you can kind of tell on some level that you're not really on the point of what needs to be talked about, but you can't pull yourself out of it, seemingly.
Yes. As I've gotten older and, wiser, obviously.
Here we go. Yeah. Here we go.
You have some good points. That's why people tune in.
That's why.
Sir.
That is true. I know.
But
you're not that old. That's the thing.
I'm not that
That's
old.
the thing.
I'm 34.
I'm 52 when you talk about it. So if you're older, I'm ancient.
You're like Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm throwing a lot of Harry Potter references tonight, and so you can enjoy them.
That's all right. Go ahead.
But just to my point of when I'm in a situation like that, at some given point of time, I try and pause for a moment.
Yeah, have to.
And think, is my point so significant that I need to keep hammering on it or pushing on it? Or am I arguing and trying to be right at the end of this, deemed as right, because it feels good? Because it's satisfying something in me. Am I wanting to win just to win? Yeah. And there are moments I've had where I'm like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what that was. And so I'm like, you know what? At that point, I'm like, actually, we don't need to argue about this anymore. I realize my point's not really that valid, and I'm okay if we just conclude this discussion and we go with what you say. I have done that before. Actually.
Well, I think what happens in situations like that, is this notion of winning the argument gives us the validation that we think that we want, that somebody's going to see that we have a valid point, when really what's underlying is the issue. We want to be heard, right? But when you're in an argument like that, where two truths are colliding head on and one is trying to win out over the other, winning can feel like validation.
Sure.
But then it still falls flat, because how does that feel when?
Yeah, because I'm like, great, you won, you're validated, and this other person, if it's like a partner or a friend or family, is somebody you care about, and now they feel not so great. You made them feel small and not so great, and
they're not talking about that now.
Yes,
right,
and that gets stowed away in the memory box.
Right.
So I think it's healthy sometimes to really pause and see where is this actually coming from, and where is it going, and what is the intention of why I'm even doing this.
Right. And if you can have two people in that debate or that disagreement both doing that, actually really constructive things can come out of it, and strengthen connection and strengthen relationships. And that's sort of what we're talking about. And I'm going to suggest that you can end up with diametrically opposed positions on something that you both witnessed or you both experienced, and Doesn't have to be a deal breaker. And you can actually build a closer relationship, closer connection out of that. The interesting thing about this is, me in the science. I always like to hit the science of these things.
Here we go.
Right? Here we go. Right?
Your turn.
Yeah, my turn. This is actually a normal thing. Our brain does not like disagreement. It does not, because the brain prefers consistency, right? What ends up happening is opposite views, particularly if they're aggressively held to or they trigger emotional responses, activates the anterior cingulate cortex. Okay, it's part of the brain that's associated with threat detection, right? It's that part that when you are out in the middle of the night somewhere by yourself, you are geared out.
Because we're all out by ourselves in the middle of the night.
I'm just thinking about something dramatic, right? When in the situation where you are alert, right? Sure. Looking for danger. Yes. That's the first one that comes. It is Halloween time, right? All right. So anyway, or recently it's been anyway. And then in that also people's identities rely so much on a sense of safety and belonging. Disagreement so often can feel like personal rejection, right? Sure. So, and I think that's what happens a lot in the political discourse that we have, for example. Somebody holds a political position diametrically opposed to somebody else, and because they disagree, they think they're rejecting or judging that person.
That makes sense too, because if you think about it, we are like these little hubs that have thoughts and values and everything all floating around in there, and they've been there for a long time.
Yeah.
So you are beyond married to the idea that the Mariners are important. They hold a lot of value. Like that has been so ingrained in you for so long.
Yeah.
Like it's not even a thought anymore.
No.
It just is.
Just is. Yeah.
And so when you have someone who like opposes that, like you said, it comes off as a threat because you're not hearing yourself thinking for the first time, the Mariners are great. It's like almost part of your DNA that the Mariners are great.
Yeah.
And so you're like, this is my point. And then other people are like, well, this is so my point that they're not. Well, or sports in general is not important or whatever.
And I want to be clear to viewers and listeners. Ashley didn't attack me for being a Mariners fan.
No, we should talk about what we did with that.
Okay.
Actually,
go ahead.
If you're fine with that.
I am. Go ahead.
Because, like he said, we had two different viewpoints on this.
Yeah.
Sports and Mariners are very important to him. I'm like, I'm not bandwagoner, but I was supporting. It got exciting, right? And I know it's impactful for the Seattle area, so it would have been really cool to see them go
civic pride
so
and all that.
Yeah, totally. Like that was really cool and whatnot, and supporting my friends that were big fans. But then when they lost, and I saw the people around me kind of feel the burden and the weight of that loss, and then I felt yours a little bit more because you were vocal about how you felt about it. Eventually, I was like, okay, what do I do with this? Because I don't have any comforting words to tell him, because there is nothing coming from me in that realm, because I don't care about this. Right. So I'm like, I'm just going to, it's not important. I'm not going to belittle it or anything, because what he's experiencing is real to him. And I'm just going to let him kind of figure it out and work through those emotions. And I'll be here when he's on the other side of that, but I will not hold his hand through that type of idea.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we did, is like, I think I got a little quiet and I was like, I'm just going to keep my opinions to myself here. And
you said that.
You'll be okay. Yes, in actual text, I was like, I'm just not going to say anything to you right now. I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
And let's tell the story. It didn't take me long to bounce back. It wasn't like I went into days long mourning or anything like that.
No,
it was only a couple
hours. Days.
Yeah, no, it was a few hours.
Was it?
Few hours.
I'm going to go back and look at our text.
Okay. It was only a few hours. I felt it acutely.
Okay.
Right. Which is a real accomplishment for me, honestly, because that sucked. That was not fun at all. But yeah, no, it was, you wisely handled it. Right. And there was a recognition of that.
Yes.
And that was actually kind of what we're talking about. A recognition that somebody else's truth is true for them in that moment. Low stakes, right? In the big scheme of things, a difference in opinion over team sports means nothing, right? And I'm aware of that too. But the identity attachment is what you're talking about, is important. And you didn't contribute to a stressful situation, because what can happen is if you inject stress, or stress is already felt, and you engaged in something like that in a different situation, it can create emotional reasoning, which under stress, emotion always trumps logic.
Right.
Always does. And so feelings of feeling threatened, not listened to, not validated, or attacked will end up trumping the logic of a situation and makes it harder to talk about, right? And in the end, last point I want to make before we take our first break is so often what we're talking about when we talk about our truths, and I can kind of get tired of hearing that sometimes, that term, speaking my truth, here's my truth. I get what people mean. But what we often label as our truth is really our sensory, emotional, and experiential truth of our experience. It's not a universal one, right? In the big scheme of things, philosophers would say, yes, in a given situation, there is a universal truth of something either did happen or something didn't happen. But people experience those things differently, and you're not always going to know what the absolute truth of something is. And history is full of examples, and our lives are full of examples of people experiencing the same things really differently, right? Which is why, like, when there's car accidents, police interview tons of people and they get different stories of what happened. It happens all the time. So what we're going to be talking about more is how do we navigate this space in light of the fact that at least initially, our brains and our bodies can work against us when we're in that kind of conflict, right? So how's that sound to you?
Sounds great.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Then let's take our first break here on Staying Power. When we come back, we'll also do our weekly segment, which I think this week is 2 Minutes of Terror.
It is a terror.
Right?
Yes.
It is a terror. So we'll talk about that at the other end of the break. Stick around here on Staying Power. See you in a minute.
There's danger out there. It lurks on highways and quiet neighborhood streets. It's more likely to kill you than a shark and more terrifying than the biggest snake. Distracted driving claims lives every day. Every notification, swipe, social post, video, or selfie while driving risks your life. So while you might think public speaking or the zombie apocalypse is scary, what's really terrifying and even deadly is distracted driving. Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Chris Erdman. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW, I sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs, creative minds, and game changers to uncover the real stories behind their business. On my show, Made of More, we explore the challenges that they've overcome, the breakthroughs that they've celebrated, and the mindset that drives them forward. If you're ready to unlock your full entrepreneurial potential, Made of More is the show for you, because here we know you are made of more. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW.
Tell your friends about Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley, and we are talking about people having different truths, different perspectives, and how we can navigate those and actually build better relationships, even though sometimes it can feel like our brains and our bodies are working against us because, newsflash, they are, at least initially, right? So we have to learn how to work through that and work with that. Before we get back into that, though, it is time for our weekly segment. Ashley and I love to take 2 minutes every week to talk about something that was either a terror or a triumph from the week, share about it, all in the name of vulnerability, connection, and just kind of practicing what we preach. Here we go, 2 minutes of terror. No, I didn't do anything for the screen. I always like to do something. Yeah. All right. Ashley, what do you got?
All right. So, it is spooky Halloween season. It has been for a bit. And I did many, many great, awesome things in the month of October.
You love Halloween.
I know.
I
love
so
embracing it.
Yeah,
So fun.
You do. It's pretty fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying this experience. So I decided on a given day that going to the Georgetown morgue was going to be a good idea.
Explain what the Georgetown morgue is.
Well, it is a morgue in the Seattle area. However, there is, in around Halloween time, it becomes like an event. It's like a scary house that you walk through. It's a lot of jump scare stuff. So I decided to wrangle up some people and we're all going. And it's like one half of me decided, yes, we're doing this without checking in with the other half of me and being like, are you okay with this? Because I'm in line and we're about to go in and I get all like the jitters, like, this is actually happening. And then it dawns on me like, oh yeah, you're actually going to be scared for like 20 solid minutes walking through this. Hope you're okay because it's your turn to go.
You didn't think about that beforehand.
Nope,
I didn't. Like going on a scary roller coaster. You haven't quite thought
kind of
through.
like that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're strapped in. You're like, what did
I just do?
So it was good. I had my hood up for most of it, so I honestly didn't see half of it. The stuff I did see, it was awesome. Honestly, would highly recommend. But there was one part, and I actually froze.
Whoa.
Like I actually
It hit your central
halted.
nervous system?
Yes.
Whoa.
I absolutely paused and I was like, I am not walking past. Nope. We're not doing this. Eventually I had to because I had to,
Because you had to go through
I
it.
had to go through it. But
And you made it.
I made it. It was
Wow.
very scary. Yeah.
Wow.
There was somebody, they had a chainsaw, and obviously there's not like an actual chain on it.
Right.
But they're all masked up and spooky, and they're like running after you with the chainsaw, and I like absolutely panicked.
See, this is the type of thing. You know how Mariners and non-sports, this is haunted house for you, don't care at all for me. Like, I don't see the point of them at all. World is scary enough. My life is scary enough. My brain is like a bag of cats. Why would I want to scare myself to death?
That's a valid point. I thought about that halfway through it. I'm like, why did I do that?
I know. That's so funny. That's so funny. All right.
Anyways,
So you made
That
it.
was my terror. Yeah, It was
Okay.
actually very terrifying.
Yeah, it's literally
It
terrifying.
was a literal terror.
My terror has been, I have, not so much a terror as an aggravation. I have been, you probably hear it in my voice, I've been battling an illness for like 3 weeks. I cannot shake it. No matter what I'm doing, I'm doing all the things I normally do. I'm getting rest. I'm eating well. I'm taking medicine. I'm doing all those things, and it's just not going away. Now, I'm not unique in this. There certainly seems to be something going around up here in the Northwest that is kind of keeping people sick for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. But man, I don't like not being at my best health-wise. And I can get into recrimination of like, oh, what did I do to put myself in a situation where, well, it's just life, right? It's just how it is.
True.
And there might be a future topic in this for us to
sick.
to do on being sick and how to handle it. But that's been my terror because it's just it grinds me down, and it's one of those colds that doesn't feel overwhelming at any point. It just feels consistent, just grinding. Waking up every single day feeling like 70% as opposed to 100. Can't stand it. So anyway, so I'm still in the middle of it. Can you hear it?
That's rough. Yeah, there's a little rasp
A little bit.
going on there.
A little bit. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm doing the best I can. But so far I haven't coughed, which is good.
Okay.
All right. So,
Well,
okay. Now, as soon as I said that, I feel like I need to cough. Okay. So, all right, let's get back to this. So let's talk a little bit about this tension, right? Of, being right and belonging. There's a lot of, you and I make fun of bumper sticker philosophy a lot
Yes,
of
we
times,
do.
right? Simple things, which we could also call meme philosophy, right? Really simplistic ways of doing things, almost like the sugar candy as opposed to the healthy meal of reasoning and advice and things like that. One that you hear a lot is, would you rather be right or would you rather be at peace? With yourself, with people. I like that one a lot.
I like that one too.
Right. In some certain cases, I do think it can be important to be right, depending on what we're talking about, right? If the stakes are high or, we're talking about a serious, social issue, moral issue, ethical issue, whatever. But this, really what we're talking about is the challenges that we can feel both emotionally and physically when we are in those conflicts where two truths are colliding or two perspectives are colliding. Because as we talked about before the break, the body is wired to want consistency, to want protection, to want safety, and to defend itself by dropping into fight, flight, or freeze. And that's not what we want, particularly when these are things that are happening between us and somebody who's really important to us. So I want to talk a little bit about how we can navigate some of these things. You mentioned one that you do. You kind of pause. How is that something that you cultivated recently, or is that something that you've known to do? Are there other tactics that you use to calm yourself? Because what you did is allowed yourself to take a step back, ground, drop into the parasympathetic state, if we were going to talk about it, right? Parasympathetic state and go, okay, hold on. Right? Is that something you learned recently? Is it new? Is it something you've done?
I think it's safe to say that I have done it for a while without knowing what it was I was doing until like when we went through our coaching program and we learned a lot of that kind of stuff and practice and whatnot. That's when I was like, oh, that's what I was doing. It's great though. It is certainly something. And I have found I don't have to consciously think, okay, I should pause right now and like take a step back. I just find myself actually just doing it naturally, which is great.
Yeah.
To be able to have somehow trained myself to do that in light of what I'm dealing with in that moment. Another tactic as you would call them, that I have come to realize seems to be working for me is in a moment like that. And this kind of pairs with like the pausing of like, what do I do with this? Is that question, what do I do with this? Because if I start to see like this is going to go nowhere beneficial or it's going to hit a dead end, if that instance is not going to change or they're not going to change or their opinion's not going to change, what is the one factor that I can change and influence? And it is myself. So then I am like, okay, maybe I just remove myself from the situation. Or I'm like, I actually am going to remove the value that I'm placing on this and I will figure out a different way to handle it. Or, I won't involve this person anymore. They're very strong on their views this way. Great. I'll find somebody else. Or I will find a different workaround.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And it's worked depending on the situation.
Of course.
But there are times because it can get so exhausting when you're like, I'm working so hard to get my point across for them to see my side. There comes a point where you're like, that may not happen. And then what?
Right.
You go to sleep angry. You
Right.
never come to a conclusion. And maybe that is the case.
Could be.
It will, you might always have a different perpendicular view or an opinion on something compared to the person across the table from you or whatnot. And it's not always bad.
No,
it's just
not.
you got to figure out how to live with it.
Right. And I wonder for you, do you ever feel in situations like that you gave up something of yourself to do that? Like you, quote unquote, gave in before the other person did? Or do you end up framing it differently than that?
I used to.
It used to
be like a little bit of an ego hit, right?
That could develop resentment, right?
Yes.
If that happens too often.
Yes. At one point I did. And then after a bit of time, I'm like, but did I really? Again, it kind of depends on the topic, but
of course.
There's not many things I think that I have ever been in such opposition with somebody else that it was life altering, where I'm like, Ashley, it's not be the bigger person. To me, I'm like, let's just be the better person. Let's just be smarter about this. And that then becomes not between me and the other person. It's between me and me.
Oh, I see. I think that's good as long as you can turn it into, I'm going to do this for me and this person's an idiot. Right? that would be a fine line. So if you can navigate that, that's pretty good. Because I think there's a part of me that's like, okay, I'm going to step back from this. They're still freaking wrong though, and I can hold that grudge, or I try not to. But that's a good one. Because what I like about what you're doing there is you actually engage in the important shift. Because in that threat detection mode, the amygdala part of the brain, the emotional response, sympathetic response is active. What the goal is to shift back to the prefrontal cortex in the brain, which is where empathy and regulation are established, right? And for me, what I have learned is, and I learned this, and I'll tell the story a little later if we have time. I learned in a really specific conversation one time where I realized, holy cow, I disagree with this person. We're debating over the reality of something that had happened, right? Okay. I don't agree with this, but this clearly is really important to this person who's important to me. Isn't that important? Is that important enough for me to take seriously because it's them? Mm-hmm. Okay, I may not understand it. I may not agree with it, but it's theirs and I care about them. Mm-hmm. So can I use that knowledge and that belief and that love for them to kind of give myself a little bit of breathing room to shift from that amygdala stance to
That's a really valid point.
Yeah, it happened in a real specific instance, and I pretty much just told the story. I went, holy cow, this is a person who's so important to me. Why am I battling this? Maybe I would learn more if they knew I was taking them seriously on what they were saying. And what came out of my mouth was, okay, we clearly don't see the same on this, but I can really tell your position matters to you. I would like to try to understand it as best I can. And the whole conversation shifted. And I don't know where it came from.
That's a huge gift.
It was.
It
was. And she actually thanked me later on. She said, thank you for saying that, because it shifted both of us. And it's become a foundational thing for me, right? Because with the people particularly the people we care about, shouldn't we care about their position, even if we don't think we agree with it or we don't understand it? I can accept something from somebody without A, understanding it, and B, having to agree with it. And we tend to think that accepting things means you're either agreeing with it tacitly or actively, or you are understanding it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
No. I can accept something from somebody who's close to me, even if I don't get it. Right. I think that matters.
That's a really good example.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I think that's kind of what we're talking about. There's so many things about what this does in the brain we could go into, and I don't want to bore everybody with it. But another thing that's really good too, and I don't know if we learned this in coaching, right? Coaching training. People who can identify specific emotions.
I was just going to say that.
Specific emotions. If you can understand, and the example would be, I'm feeling misunderstood and not heard, as opposed to I'm angry. There's a big difference between those two. I'm angry is kind of a very general emotion and personifies the emotion. I am angry. Like I am JD, I am angry, right? That makes it really hard for somebody to feel like they can budge. But if you say, I feel misunderstood or not listened to or ignored, the people who do that, it shows, actually are able to handle conflict with less reactivity over time and more curiosity, right? A similar situation with people that I'm close to. If I'm having something, I'll be like, man, I'm feeling defensive. And I also know I love you and you're not wanting me to be defensive, chances are. You're not trying to browbeat me. You're not trying to, win an argument here. You're trying to express something that's important to you. I want to kind of open up the space for that a little bit more. If we can do that, we're going to be better in terms of, because then we're, again, curiosity, that's empathy, all of that's at the front of the brain, prefrontal cortex. It sounds like you kind of engage with that as well, the examples that you're talking about.
I have been in situations where actually naming the emotion or the experience really helps the other person, because all they see and or hear is what you're expressing. They hear your tone of voice. They see the expressions on your face.
Your
and
body language.
Yeah, your body language. If you're like making a lot of motions with your hands, if you're slamming cabinets and stomping around the house.
Your body's tight.
Yes, you can feel that tension in the air. And sometimes when we're experiencing it, it's like, it's so obvious. And yet the other person's like, I don't know, does this even have to do with me? Or
right.
Did I do something? That's always like the man's thing. Did I do something?
Or not do something?
Why
what
is she
what
mad?
Is going on here?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And, and to them, they may not be able to completely, properly, and accurately interpret what we're experiencing. So if you can say, like you said, not to say, I am angry, because you're not trying to identify with it, but you can say, I am feeling angry. I feel a lot of anger right now. To say those things, I have done that.
Yeah.
Where I'm just actively saying, like, I don't feel my best because of this and this reason. And sometimes it's humbling. Sometimes it can feel awkward. If you've never done it before, it feels it feels very vulnerable, and like you're putting something out there and you're like, what are they going to do with it? Can I trust them that they're going to be gentle with what I put out there?
Yeah, it's vulnerability.
They may not. And you have to hopefully be okay with whatever they do. And of course you are.
Well, and it goes back to some things we've talked about before. It's a great time to connect in that reminder that the emotions that we're feeling at a given moment are temporary, right? We've talked about a couple weeks ago, the explosion of emotion we have usually only lasts about 90 seconds. So when we get really mad, it's for about 90 seconds. When we break down in tears, or it's about 90 seconds. The feelings may not go away after that. But the huge outburst, which is usually what we're really worried about or trying to stave off, doesn't last as long as we think, and they pass. So in a conversation, and this has happened with you and I, where we've had these, where we've been able to say, I'm feeling frustrated right now. There's this awareness you and I both bring to the table of, okay, but that's right now.
Right.
And it won't stay that way. And that's what we're here to talk about. That's what we're here to figure out. We can bring that in. Suddenly, then the conflict doesn't suddenly feel like it's life or death. And it's not going to completely cascade upward in intensity, right? And downward in productivity, right? I think that's a big one. The more curiosity we can have, the better off we're going to be on that. All right. There's more on this, But it's time for us to take another break. So when we come back on Staying Power, we are going to dig in a little bit on this and also give all of you some tips, hopefully you've got some ideas of things you can do. But we have a few other things that can help you kind of shift in those types of conversations to make them more productive. We'll be right back.
It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Are you ready to discover remarkable stories of resilience and cultural connection? This is Diaspora, a show sharing the journeys of first-generation immigrants from the Indian subcontinent now building their lives in North America. Inspiring, insightful, and always engaging, Diaspora offers a unique perspective on the immigrant experience. Join me, Aditya Mehta, my guests, on the Diaspora Show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. right here on KKNW.
No other station delivers this much variety. Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley.
Hi.
And we are talking about navigating difficult conversations where different perspectives, different truths, if you will, are kind of at the ready. And how can we effectively not just navigate those, but actually use those as ways to build stronger connection and stronger relationships, which is a key component of building a better life. So where I wanted to go next was, Ashley, remember a few weeks ago we did that values share where we did the values assessment and we shared those. And remember how surprised we were at how many we had in common at the front end?
Yeah.
At the high end, like the top 8 or something like that. I think we had 6 of the same ones. And then all the other ones were really different. There's an important part of this in this subject. Relationships thrive on shared core values. The relationship you and I have thrives because we have those shared core values, right? And I think we could probably sit down with each one and go, yep, we value that. That's how I see that in this person, and this is what they give to me. Relationships need that. I think what can happen, though, is we end up mistaking that for having to have identical opinions. We can have shared core values, but we don't have to have identical opinions. Now, again, another caveat, depends on the opinions. Depends on what we're talking about, right? Certain things may not work. But I would also harbor a guess that on some of those really charged differences of opinion, that might indicate there's some differences in core values.
That's very true.
There might indicate that. And I think that's something to think about. And particularly in the political realm that we're in now, I think a lot of people are having trouble because they want to say, well, we're just disagreeing over politics. But some of these things can perhaps indicate maybe these people don't share, a family member, a partner, a friend, a coworker, don't share the same core values. What do I do with that? Right? And not shared core values makes a relationship very difficult, right? In all of that.
There is a point that I'll add in with that when you talk about using politics as an example, and you can apply this to other things too, is people might be diehard in one direction, and at some point they may start to change their mind. You're like, oh, well, actually that side over there, kind of agree with that, or I could see that perspective now.
People change their minds all the time.
Yes, but I have seen people that they might internally change their mind, but externally and outwardly they don't.
Yep.
Because they have for so long been over here, and now, heaven forbid, they go over there.
Yep.
And what will people say, and what will people do, and the
Seen as
judgments.
weakness.
Yes,
right?
and will that side over there accept me because I've been over here for so long? And so they're just like, well, I couldn't ever identify with something like that because I've just been against it for so long, so I couldn't possibly be with it now.
Yeah. It's an important thing, and I talk about it quite a bit, and some people disagree with me on this, but I do think we have to allow avenues for people to change their mind. And we can approach conversations and debates with people from a position of curiosity, being able to listen, advocating a certain position, and being kind as possible about it without sacrificing the core values of who we are. That just takes a lot more work than the social media barrage empire of quick blasts, get clicks, get views allows for. And unfortunately, that seems to be the battleground. You know. Anyway, okay. So with that, that's something else to think about. But let's talk, Ashley, about some things we can actually do. Right, some things to notice. Do you have like things from your body that tell you when you're in a mode where you have to decide to say, "Okay, I'm pausing"? Do you get tense? Does your body tense up? Anything that you notice?
I guess tense might be a good word. I feel like an inner burning or like an inner heat, like in my chest cavity.
Chest?
Yes.
Okay.
And I feel my heart rate pick up, and I feel like all this energy all of a sudden is just brewing, and I need to disperse it and let it out somewhere somehow.
Okay.
I am a little hothead. So
you have that side of you.
Spicy.
However, a little spicy. But here's the thing. That is a telltale sign. If the body tenses, I tense up. I tense up first, and then I can feel sweat. You're right. Right where my neck and my jawline meet is where I first notice it. Yeah. But it's first tense in the shoulders, and probably my seating position changes. Right? I notice that. Both of those, yours and mine, are examples of the body responding to threat. That's the amygdala response. Right. So it is not coming from truth. And so what we do, that stepping back, recognizing that you have a pause, I take a deep breath, it's the same thing, allows for that shift to happen. Right? So our bodies can signal that before our brains even know that that's where we are. So that's the first thing to listen to. Connection and curiosity, that's a funny thing. Connection and curiosity, they're biological states. They're not intellectual positions. They aren't. So you can't access empathy, openness, curiosity if your body's in fight or flight.
Right.
You just can't. We talked about it last week. You cannot have those two things work together. The body and the brain do not allow it. So, but what it does allow is that practice of learning how to make that shift.
Right.
Pausing, deep breath, loosening things up, even just recognizing that you're having a somatic response. I can't tell you how many times I've been in situations like that, conversations where I notice that, and all I have to say is, hey, you know what? I'm noticing I'm tensing up. Give me just a minute. Deep breath, pause, right? And if you're in with somebody who you know and cares about you, they're going to be okay with that. Right?
They should be.
They should be. And if they aren't, then there's some other core value things to talk about. All right. So really what we're talking about, Ashley, is, and I like how you framed this. It's not either or action. It's both and. We're disagreeing and we're in connection. How can we maintain these and still work through this challenge? So how do we shift all those things practically is really where I'd like to go at this point. So what comes up for you with any of that, with the both and statement or wherever you want to go?
Just kind of like what we've talked about earlier in this episode already, is that we can see things differently. I see it differently than you do, and that's okay. And you might still be right, and I might still be right. And what do we do with that? You know, there's one thing, and this kind of does not go anything with what you were just talking about, but it's one thing that it's such an example to me, and I always go back to it, is, you know, if you are one that you only know the English language and you don't speak or understand another language, and say somebody comes up to you and speaks another foreign language and is saying a bunch of horrible, terrible things to you, and you have no idea what they're saying because you don't understand their language, it has no effect on you at all. Now, you might be able to pick up something and be like, well, they look really angry. They're like kind of in my face or whatever. But even then, you don't even know what they're saying. You can hear tonality, which in some languages sounds really angry, and they're saying, I love you. So that's even a thing. Right. You know? That's true. But I heard that once, and I was like, you know what? That totally makes sense.
So in this context, what's the comparison?
Well, that's what I was saying, is it doesn't have really anything to do with what you were talking about. But I always go back to it because I'm like, it really shows to me that you place value on something. And if you don't understand that, I have placed zero value on whatever that person was telling me because I don't understand their language. I don't know what they're saying.
Got it.
So it doesn't affect me.
And they're a stranger, probably. So
there is, and I could just keep on walking like it didn't happen.
Right.
And I'm like, but if I did know their language and I did know what they were saying, would I be super offended?
Maybe.
Probably.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But yet still, what would you do? If it's a stranger, there's only so much you can do, right? Maybe you defend yourself.
Well, but if it's a stranger, even then, if I understand it, doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Because are they important to me?
Right.
No.
Right. That's a great point.
So
it's a great point. It actually does fit. It does fit. So if we take and go from that side of things to the ones where we're connected with somebody, where we know them, you're suggesting, yes, there's some intent coming at me, and I have agency on how much value I want to give that. Right? The word "and" is really powerful there, right? How oftentimes when the reactive argument is going on, yeah, but, you hear that, yeah, but.
Yes.
When we say "but," it just completely invalidates everything that just came before it. So the "and" in there matters, right? You even said it in your first example. I see this differently, and I understand how you might feel the same way. Or I care about you, and I still have a different view on this. What both of those do is it allows the person who's saying it and the person who's hearing it to really connect with integrative thinking. It reduces the defensive response, right? I mean, and tone matters too, right? Screaming either one of those is probably not going to help.
Maybe not.
But coming from a position of being calmer, I care about you. We disagree on this, right? But I know that it matters to you, right? That just allows for more curiosity to open things up. The other thing that you do, which I think is so cool, when you said pause, you kind of buried the lead a little bit at the front end of the show. Yeah, without knowing it, is you do something a pause is grounding your body in where you are. In order to pause, you got to get present.
Oh, yeah.
You got to do that. And it takes one conscious breath. And if we wanted to do this by the book of how, a lot of practitioners are trained to do this, coaches and others, it's taking one dedicated breath, finding your feet, right? Feel them on the floor, wherever they happen to be, and dropping your shoulders. Our shoulders almost automatically come up in defense when we're feeling defensive. So one breath, drop your shoulders, feel your feet. And when you do that, you put your body into that parasympathetic space. And then as soon as you feel that calmness come in, then you can respond. That's what you do. That's interesting. So I know. So I didn't want to talk about it right there. Because I have that stored for later.
No, that's
There is a plan to this, everybody. There's a whole method to this madness.
That is so funny. Because in those moments, I don't consciously think about okay, big deep breath in, take a moment, ground my feet, where are my feet?
Nope.
I don't think any of that. I picture, it's funny. I picture the me with, I don't know, your spirit or your, whatever you deem you as you inside your body that you live in, is when I'm in the moment, right? I'm riled up or whatever, and I'm feeling all the emotions. When I go for that moment of a breather to step away from that, I feel like me goes and crawls into my little logical side of the brain and starts looking around of okay, why are we here? What is important? What are we going to do with this? In the grander scheme of things, does this really matter? Will this matter in a week? Is this going to affect something really important to me over the rest of my life? Do I care about the other person so much that this really is a smaller thing? Like you've mentioned, you care so much about the other person. Do you care that they care about this, whatnot? But I very much step out of the emotions and hop into the logic. And
see, I'm going to frame that a little differently because I don't think you can do that unless you've had a somatic response to it already. Because I think that's the result of what that does. Because you're going inward. You're not being defensive anymore. And you're not going inward in a protective sense, it sounds like. You're going in, you're stepping out and going, okay, hold on. There's what's really happening here. What really needs to matter. You can't do that. That's the curiosity side. So whatever it is that you're doing is a somatic response
keep doing
first.
It.
Yeah, keep doing it. That's a somatic response first. Proves my point, right? That's the whole thing. There's other things too. Curiosity questions, an argument. You are so good at those, Ashley. You are. You're so good at those. When particularly, and it just happened the other day, I was sharing something with you. You're asking how I was doing, being sick, and I wasn't doing so well. And you asked me a question. I answered your question. I was like, I'm not doing so good. And you asked a couple of really small, curious questions. One of them was, more or less, how many of those are facts and how many of those are stories? And I went, oh.
You're like, well, let me see.
Because you did say, these are facts.
Yeah.
What are the other ones? And I went, oh, okay. And what that did, I was in a state where I was having a hard time telling the difference between what was actually factual, that I was responding to with understandable emotion, and to what degree was I making up stories about those that was just feeding that. So I have a hard time seeing that, and you did that. So micro curiosity questions, like what led you to see it that way, right? Or how long have you really held on to that? Where does that come from? What value is that to you? Like, what value is that defending that's so important to you? Or can you tell me more about why this means so much to you? Those things, what that does is triggers those prefrontal empathy circuits, not just for the person asking it, but the person hearing it. And suddenly that can do it. Remember we talked some episodes ago about all it takes is one person in a conflict to really open up themselves, open up the space, and somebody else will calm down as a result, most likely.
Yes. Yeah.
Same thing. Because the mind and the bodies together in connection seek equilibrium. So if one gets ratcheted up, another one might ratchet up with it. And if it ratchets down, it wants to subconsciously ratchet down. You're really good at that, right? You are.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are really good at that. Another one, too. Have you ever heard of the 80-20 rule?
I have, in regards to eating snacks and sweets.
Okay. There's something called the 80-20 connection rule that is similar.
Oh, I don't know that one.
To that. Yeah. Yeah. And essentially it's this. In any given situation or relationship or anything you're evaluating, if you can focus on nurturing the 80% of your shared humanity and shared positions and beliefs with somebody and not worry as much about the other 20%, you are actually going to craft better arguments, better discussions, better relationship.
Really?
Recognizing that you're probably going to have about 20% at least of some major disagreements or disagreements on various things. Something as simple as sports, non-sports, movies, non-movies, types of music, right? Who's a good author and who's not, right? Are the Harry Potter movies and books any good, right? There's some of those things. Don't get defensive. Okay? Those kinds of things. Yeah. And for you, I'm wondering, we're running out of time, aren't we? Oh man. So we're gonna have to cut this short. We're gonna have to come back to this.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
You're gonna be okay?
I'm gonna be okay. That doesn't happen.
You need to give your voice a rest.
I do. But there's a lot to this actually. And you know what I might actually do? There was a couple more points that I wanted to get to. I might, right after you guys have a listen to this, I might post a few.
There you go. You can post them online
on
so people
media,
can find us on the medias.
Yeah, exactly. On the medias. So let's do that. Ashley, thank you for bringing all this in today.
Thanks for all your compliments, JD. But really, thanks. This was a really great topic.
Yeah, really important one too. Really important one too. So thanks so much for that. Thank you so much to all of you for tuning in for this episode, whether you're watching on our YouTube channel or listening at 1150 AM KKNW or on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you so much for doing it. Remember, at all those locations, you can reach out to us. Let us know what you think of the show. Ask any questions. Give us some ideas for topics. We'd love to hear from you and engage with you. And, of course, look for us on social media as well. We'll be back next week with another discussion on how to build a better life. And, of course, as always, I'm JD.
I'm Ashley.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.